WoCo with the RNS is a 2-year programme where 7 conductors early on in their careers work with the orchestra. They get fantastic tailor-made feedback, and over the period they also get their opportunity to work with an orchestra. They get their air miles, their conducting miles as well.
This is a masterclass where each conductor gets to conduct their repertoire. We have uninterrupted time to rehearse, to practice, to ask the orchestra questions about what we're doing. And then after that, we get feedback from the orchestra and from Alice Farnham, who's our mentor for this session.
So if we turn back the clock a few years to 2017, I personally set about doing a survey to see how many of the conductors represented by UK managers, UK agents were female. And back then it was 5.5%. We've done the survey a couple of times twice since then. And this year it's just over 11%. But let's not be complacent about that. In what walk of life is 89% something male acceptable? We have a long way to go in this. And the progress we've made is really promising, and that should fuel the next chapter and the chapter after that. We're getting there, but we shouldn't be complacent.
I think it's important that we remember that not that long ago, it was the same for orchestral musicians. It would be incredibly rare to find a woman in a UK orchestra or any orchestra. But now, the balance has completely shifted, which is fantastic. And I think this is the beginning of that sort of shift for women conductors.
Incredibly grateful for the opportunity and relishing every second. And I think watching my colleagues as well, it's not just about me, it's us as a group, is this energy of coming together and creating this together, being part of it, which feels wonderful.
Being able to work with a professional orchestra, we get to be in a situation almost identical to a working week. The more time we have, the more realistic it gets. So first of all, it's good to read new repertoire in front of an orchestra, especially an orchestra that plays it and knows it. So they also have insights for us. And at the end of each session, we have the feedback session. So we always manage to develop from one session to the other, from one day to the other, and from last year to this year.
WoCo feels really unique in that it's the opportunity for conductors to really practice with an orchestra in the way that musicians, players, get to practice at home or with each other in groups. And conductors very often only get to practice with pianos or maybe small ensembles, but to really have a full orchestra to experiment and be able to repeat things and try them a different way and say, oh, that didn't work for me, can I have another go? It's a really live experience of something they try to do and what is that effect on the orchestra and on the outcome, and it means they get a very direct feedback loop. It's kind of infectious and I think just more enjoyable and a faster process of learning.
The first time I stood on the podium, it was really special because also it was a piece that I love. And the first thing that I noticed that it's really special for us is that they are really interested in doing what we want and they are willing to experiment with us, which it sometimes just doesn't happen. And you can immediately get that sort of mindset from them, that sort of vibe.
So there's a lot of young women coming through now, but there's still a little bit of stagnation at the top. So what I really hope is that this will change the conversation when we've got these sort of incredibly talented and well-trained conductors coming through at the very high level. Often there are schemes that are sort of helping young women, giving them maybe a sort of residency or something, but it's not followed through with real engagements. But I'm a little bit cautious about this because I do think these things take time, so one needs to be a bit patient as well, but keep an eye on it and keep sort of pushing forward.
In the previous workshops, I was also very keen to discuss what happened in the sessions and in a more relaxed manner and not in a setting where it feels like one side and the other. In the pub setting, it's much different. But actually yesterday, I was very keen to know more about the people besides the music. And so I was just speaking about what I do when I'm not doing music. And I was trying to understand what's that hobby for the musicians when they're not playing. What is it that they're doing? Maybe we have the same hobby. And so that's also a nice side of the social, to actually get to know them.
Kind of a big incentive to continue to work really hard at being a conductor, but also I feel it's a really big responsibility for me to do as much as I can to open the door behind me for other women conductors. And you know, being a role model, I think, is something I take quite seriously. I was really fortunate to conduct the Snowman for the Royal Northern Sinfonia at Christmas, and actually I was just in the foyer afterwards grabbing a cup of coffee, and it happened. They sort of recognised me, and like the conductor was a little girl, and like, oh, she really wants to be a conductor now. And you know, again, if you can see it, you can be it, and being that role model, I mean, that's fantastic.
I hope that all my colleagues have learned something from this process. It's a real rare thing to have a profession where you remain a student forever. But I want to get behind the stick to the person there who's trying to unite us all.
I think it's such a unique, exquisite opportunity to work with Royal Northern Sinfonia, such a fantastic orchestra. Conducting them is like driving a Rolls Royce. Every single little thing you might indicate, even if it's something you didn't intend, they reflect. So it's an invaluable experience to feel that. The feedback, because it's done in such a constructive way with this incredibly experienced top-class players, they go just right down to the point. So 10 minutes of feedback can push you maybe where a year of going to classes and studying would take you.
I found this programme really interesting from the point of view of hearing what my colleagues pick up on with different conductors and the feedback that they give. Sometimes our responses or our feeling about somebody can be surprisingly different, perhaps depending on where we sit in the orchestra. I've found it really eye-opening and quite bonding, actually, you know, with my colleagues, to sort of be in a room with these conductors and to be able to kind of openly discuss these things. I think it's really healthy sort of for everybody.
To conduct the Royal Northern Sinfonia, of course, it's an honour and it's such a privilege.
Well, it makes all the difference in the world to see a woman conducting on stage. I mean, when I was young, I never saw that really. For young girls, when they see a woman on the podium, they will think, well, I can be a conductor too.